On June 14th, 2025, my son Tyler left me and my 13-year-old grandson Dennis to die in the middle of Lake Mojave, Arizona. The boat engine was dead. The GPS was gone. All that remained was a handwritten note that said, "Dad, forgive me. There was no other way." I'm Carl Richardson. I'm 67 years old. When I read that note, I didn't panic. I didn't scream. I looked at my unconscious grandson lying beside me in that drifting boat, and I made a decision. I was going to swim 2.5 miles to shore, and then I was going to make sure my son paid for what he'd done. But before I tell you how I survived, I need to tell you how I got there. Because what my son Tyler and his wife Jennifer didn't know was that I'm not the helpless old man they thought I was. 30 years as an electrical engineer and 4 years in the Navy don't just disappear when you turn 67. The heat woke me before anything else. Not the gentle warmth of morning sun, but that aggressive Arizona heat that presses down on your chest. I tried to move. My limbs felt heavy, disconnected. My head throbbed behind my temples. For a moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then I opened my eyes. Blue, endless blue stretched above me. I felt the gentle rocking motion beneath me, smelled water and sun-baked metal. I wasn't in my bed in Chandler. I was on a boat. Listen, 30 years of troubleshooting electrical systems and 4 years in the Navy teach you something important. Panic is a luxury you can't afford when things go wrong. You assess, you analyze, you act. I sat up slowly, fighting the dizziness. My mouth was desert dry. That's when I saw Dennis, my grandson, curled beside me in his bright orange life vest. His face was flushed, already showing signs of sunburn, but his chest rose and fell steady. He was breathing. He was alive. I checked his pulse the way they taught us in Navy basic training, steady at about 90 beats per minute. Whatever had happened to us, he was stable for now. I pulled my life vest over his face, creating shade. Then I looked around and assessed the situation properly. Water in every direction. Lake Mojave stretched out like liquid glass under the merciless Arizona sun. No other boats visible, no shoreline close enough to matter. Complete silence except for the lap of water against aluminum. My hands moved automatically. 30 years of engineering troubleshooting kicked in. Check the environment, assess the resources, identify the problem. The engine. I opened the cover and immediately saw the issue. The key was gone, but that wasn't the only problem. The ignition cables had been disconnected, not broken, not frayed, cleanly removed. The ends were tucked back like someone had done this carefully, deliberately. I sat back on my heels, staring at the sabotage. In 30 years of electrical work, I'd seen plenty of equipment failures. This wasn't a failure. This was intentional. I moved to the storage compartment. 2 water bottles, maybe 32 ounces total. 1 energy bar. A small first aid kit. The thermos, still half full of that sweet tea Jennifer had given me that morning. And a note, folded neatly under a smooth rock. My hands were steady as I unfolded it. Tyler's handwriting. I'd know it anywhere. "Dad, forgive me. There was no other way." I read it 3 times. The truth hit me like a punch to the gut. My son Tyler Richardson, the boy I'd raised alone after his mother left, had drugged me, disabled this boat, and left me and his 13-year-old son to die in the middle of Lake Mojave. Here's what you need to understand about how we got to that lake. I was born in 1958 in Tucson, Arizona, spent 4 years in the Navy, then 30 years as an electrical engineer for Arizona Public Service. Been a widower for 4 years now. My wife Sandra died in March 2021 from cancer. She was 63. We'd been married for 35 years. After Sandra died, it was just me in our 3-bedroom house in Chandler, the house we'd bought in 1992 for $95,000. I kept busy with consulting work, played golf twice a week, had dinner with Tyler and his family most Sundays. Life was quiet, manageable. We were okay. Then on January 15th, 2025. Everything changed. My older brother Ronald died from a heart attack. He was 74. Ronald had never married, spent his career as a geology professor at Arizona State University. He'd quietly invested in land around Mojave County for decades. The lawyer called me on January 22nd, Richard Douglas from Kingman, Arizona. "Mr. Richardson," he said, "your brother left you something significant. 20 acres of undeveloped land outside Kingman. Current appraisal puts it at $5.5 million. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my morning coffee. $5.5 million. That kind of money changes everything. Dennis's college fund, fully paid. A new house without the memories. Proper retirement where I didn't need consulting jobs. I didn't tell many people about the inheritance. Just my neighbor Karen Thompson, who'd been my friend for 22 years. And Tyler. Tyler Richardson is my son from my marriage to Sandra. He's 37 years old, a project manager for a construction company. After Sandra died, Tyler had been there for me. He helped with the funeral arrangements, called me twice a week, brought Dennis over every weekend. When I told him about Ronald's land on January 25th, he was excited. "Dad, that's incredible," he said. "You deserve this. After everything you've been through with Mom, you deserve some security." Then the calls started. February 1st. "Dad, you need to think about protecting that asset. Have you talked to a lawyer about estate planning?" February 8th. "You should consider setting up a trust for tax purposes." February 15th. "I've been doing research. There are companies that prey on widows and retirees with sudden wealth." At first, I thought he was being helpful, but the calls became more frequent, more insistent. March 1st. "Dad, you can't just sit on this. You need to make decisions." March 8th. "Jennifer thinks you should transfer the property into a family trust. It's safer that way." Jennifer Walsh Richardson, Tyler's wife of 4 years. I'd met her at Thanksgiving 2021, about 8 months after Sandra died. Blonde, polished, dressed in expensive clothes that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. She was 31 then, a corporate attorney at a firm in Scottsdale. She came from money. Her father was a real estate developer, her mother from Old Phoenix Society. She spoke 3 languages, had a law degree from UCLA, and made it very clear she was used to a certain lifestyle. I tried to like her. Tyler seemed happy. But there was something about the way she looked at our house, calculating square footage, assessing value. The way she asked pointed questions about my finances, my retirement plans, Sandra's life insurance. After I inherited Ronald's land, Jennifer's interest became laser-focused. March 15th, Tyler came over with a folder full of documents. "Dad, I've been talking to our estate attorney," he said, spreading papers across my kitchen table. "These are trust documents. They'll protect your assets." I'd been up late working on a consulting project. I was exhausted, my eyes blurry. The legal language swam across the pages. Grantor, trustee, beneficiary, irrevocable. "Just sign here, Dad," Tyler said. "And here, and initial here." I signed. I trusted him. He was my son. What I didn't know was that buried in those documents was a life insurance application. $2 million with Tyler listed as the sole beneficiary. I'd signed it thinking I was protecting Dennis. Instead, I'd given my son a financial motive to kill me. Here's the thing. I might be 67, but I'm not stupid. On May 1st, I was helping Dennis with homework on his tablet when I saw it. An email Tyler had left open. He'd forgotten to log out of his account. The subject line made my stomach turn. Mojave County Property Valuation Timeline. I clicked, before I could stop myself. It was an email exchange between Tyler and a real estate company in Kingman. Tyler had asked about liquidating inherited property in the event of the owner's death. Probate timelines, inheritance taxes, how quickly property could be sold if he were named executor of the estate. This wasn't estate planning. This was Tyler calculating how fast he could cash in after I died. I closed that email with steady hands. 30 years of engineering had taught me something valuable. You don't draw conclusions from incomplete data. You gather more information first. So I started watching, paying attention to things I'd been too trusting to notice before. May 8th, I was in my garage when Tyler came by to check on me. I heard him on the phone in my driveway talking to someone about money. "I need it by August," he said, his voice desperate. "No extensions. I know. I'm working on it." August. That was only 3 months away. May 12th, Jennifer called me directly. Her voice was honey sweet. "Carl, Tyler and I are thinking of renting a house near Lake Mojave for a long weekend in June. Family bonding time with Dennis. We'd love for you to join us. Just relax. No phones, no stress." Every instinct I had screamed to say no. But then Dennis overheard from the next room. "Grandpa, can we please? It's been forever since we did anything as a family." I looked at my grandson's hopeful face. Listen, I knew something was wrong. But I needed proof. I needed to see exactly what Tyler was planning. So I said yes, not because I trusted Tyler anymore, but because I needed to know how far he was willing to go. The house Jennifer rented was way too expensive for a construction manager's salary. A modern vacation rental on the north shore of Lake Mojave, all white walls and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water. The listing probably charged $500 a night. We arrived Friday, June 13th at 3 p.m. Tyler met us at the door, his smile wide but practiced. He looked thin, tired around the eyes. His hands shook slightly when he took my overnight bag. Jennifer appeared behind him in a crisp linen dress, perfectly composed. "Carl, Dennis, welcome," she said, kissing my cheek. Cool, efficient. "Come in, I'll show you to your rooms." Here's what struck me as odd. They'd put me in a room near the garage, isolated from everyone else. "We thought you'd like some privacy," Jennifer said. Dennis was upstairs in the loft, far from my room. Why separate us like that? In 30 years of engineering, I'd learned that when something doesn't make sense, there's usually a reason. That evening, we had dinner on the deck. Tyler grilled chicken, while Jennifer set the table with cloth napkins and mason jars of iced tea. Dennis ran around the yard, chasing lizards. The sun sank behind the ridgeline, painting the sky orange. It should have been nice. A family dinner, just like old times. But Tyler barely looked at me. When I asked about his work, he answered in short sentences. When I mentioned the Mojave County land, just testing his reaction, his jaw tightened. "We should talk about that," Jennifer said smoothly. "Estate planning, making sure everything's protected." "I have a will," I said. "But a trust is better," she continued, patient like she was explaining something to a child. "Especially with Dennis. You want to make sure he's taken care of." "I'm 67, not dying," I said. Jennifer's smile didn't waver. "Of course, just smart planning." Tyler said nothing. He stared at his plate, chewing mechanically. That night, I lay in the bedroom near the garage, staring at the ceiling. The air conditioning hummed, crickets chirped outside, but I couldn't sleep. Around midnight, I heard voices on the deck. I got up quietly, pressed myself against the wall near the sliding door, and listened. Tyler and Jennifer were talking, their voices low but carrying on the still night air. "Tomorrow," that was Jennifer. "Just stick to the plan." "What if he—" Tyler's voice, uncertain, worried. "He won't. Trust me. He trusts you." Then silence, footsteps, the sliding door opening and closing. They were coming inside. I crept back to bed, my heart hammering. Tomorrow. The plan. He trusts you. Right then, I should have grabbed Dennis, walked out to my car, driven back to Chandler, and called the police. But I didn't. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I'd misheard. My son wouldn't hurt me, right? That hesitation almost cost us everything. The smell of bacon woke me the next morning. I came into the kitchen around 8 a.m. to find Jennifer already at the stove, humming softly. She was dressed in yoga pants and a white tank top, looking like she'd stepped out of a magazine. Tyler sat at the table, scrolling through his phone, barely acknowledging me. "Good morning, Carl," Jennifer said brightly. "Coffee's fresh. We're thinking we'll head out to the lake around 10. It's gorgeous in the morning, not too crowded yet." "Sounds good," I said, pouring coffee with hands steadier than I felt. Dennis bounced into the kitchen in his swim trunks, already excited. "Grandpa, can I drive the boat?" "We'll see, son." While breakfast cooked, I watched Jennifer prepare a large thermos. She filled it carefully from a kettle on the stove, added honey, stirred with a long spoon. She screwed the lid on tight, then set it by the door with our bags. "Herbal tea," she explained when she caught me looking. "Chamomile and mint. It helps with motion sickness. The water out there can get choppy." "That's thoughtful," I said. But my engineering mind was already working. Why bring herbal tea on a boat trip? Why not just water or sports drinks? At 9:45 a.m., we loaded into Tyler's SUV and drove to the marina. The morning was already hot, that dry Arizona heat that makes your skin feel tight. Tyler handled everything at the rental counter, talking to Keith Stewart, the weathered attendant with the name tag. Keith handed over keys to a small motorboat. "Standard rental, nothing fancy," he said, going through the safety instructions. Tyler nodded along, but I noticed he spent way too much time checking the engine. Maybe 15 minutes, crouched down, fiddling with something I couldn't see clearly. "Why so thorough?" I asked. "Just want to make sure everything works right, Dad. Safety first." Keith helped us load life vests into the boat while Tyler continued his inspection. In 30 years of electrical work, I'd seen plenty of people check equipment. Tyler wasn't checking. He was doing something specific. We loaded into the boat. Tyler and Jennifer up front, Dennis and me in back. The morning sun was climbing high, the air already shimmering with heat. Lake Mojave stretched out before us like a blue mirror against red rock cliffs. For the first 20 minutes, everything seemed normal. Dennis laughed, pointing at fish jumping in the distance. The boat rocked gently on small waves, spray, hitting our faces. Cool and refreshing. I kept one eye on Tyler and Jennifer, one hand near the controls. Then Jennifer stood up with that thermos. "Carl, take this," she said, reaching across the gap between seats. "It's hot out here. You need to stay hydrated." The thermos was cool in my hands, condensation beating on the stainless steel. Dennis was thirsty from the heat and excitement. "Can I have some first, Grandpa?" "Of course, son." Dennis drank first, taking several long gulps. This is good. Try it, Grandpa." I lifted the thermos to my lips. The tea was cool, slightly sweet, tasted like mint and honey, but underneath, something else. Something almost bitter that didn't belong. A voice in my head whispered, "Don't drink it." But Dennis had already drunk from it, and Jennifer was watching with those calculating blue eyes, waiting. I took a long swallow. "Feel better?" Jennifer asked, her smile perfect. "Much better, thank you." 10 minutes later, my head felt heavy. My vision started to blur like I was looking through water. My limbs felt sluggish, disconnected. Dennis slumped against the side of the boat, his eyes fluttering closed. I tried to call out to Tyler. "Something's wrong." My voice came out weak, barely a whisper. I looked toward Tyler and Jennifer. They'd moved their section of the boat maybe 100 yards away, then 200. Tyler had the engine running, but he wasn't coming back to check on us. I tried to start our engine. My fingers fumbled with the key. It turned, clicked, nothing. The electrical connections Tyler had been checking, now I understood. The world tilted. The sun burned overhead, impossibly bright. My grandson lay still beside me, and I couldn't lift my hand to touch his face. The last thing I saw before everything went dark was Tyler and Jennifer's boat growing smaller on the horizon. Jennifer was standing in the back, not waving for help. Just watching us drift. When I woke up the second time, the sun had moved. lower in the sky, angled differently. I'd been unconscious for hours. Here's the thing about 30 years of engineering troubleshooting. It teaches you to stay calm in emergencies. Panic wastes energy. You assess the situation, identify resources, make a plan. I sat up slowly, testing my body. Severe headache, extreme dry mouth, but I could move. I could think. That was enough. Dennis was still unconscious beside me, breathing steady under the shade I'd created from our life vests. His pulse was 92 beats per minute when I checked, elevated but not dangerous. I examined the boat like I was troubleshooting a power grid failure. The engine cover revealed Tyler's sabotage. The ignition cable wasn't just disconnected, it had been deliberately removed and tucked into a corner of the engine housing. Professional work. Tyler had learned more from watching me over the years than I'd realized. Our supplies, 32 ounces of water total. In this heat with 2 people, maybe 12. Hours if we didn't move around. 1 energy bar. No shade except life vests. No GPS, no radio, no flares. Someone had stripped this boat of everything we needed to survive. I found Tyler's note and read it again in the afternoon light. Then I did something that would have made Tyler proud. I analyzed the problem like an engineer. The shoreline was visible, maybe 2.5 miles away. Too far for Dennis to swim, especially drugged and dehydrated. But I could make it. I'd swum farther in Navy training 45 years ago. If I stayed with Dennis, we'd both die of dehydration. If I swam for help, I might save him. The math was simple. Dennis stirred. His eyes opened, confused and frightened. "Grandpa, where are we?" "We're on the lake, son." I helped him sit up, gave him the opened water bottle. "Drink slowly." "What happened to Dad and Jennifer?" "They went ahead, but I'm going to swim to shore and get help." His eyes went wide. "No, Grandpa, don't leave me." I took his face in my hands, the way I used to when he had nightmares. "Dennis, listen to me. I'm your grandfather. I will come back for you, I promise. Do you understand?" He nodded, tears running down his sunburned cheeks. I found a pen in the first aid kit. On the back of Tyler's note, I wrote in my neat engineering handwriting. Carl Richardson, 67. Dennis Richardson, 13. Drugged and abandoned. Lake Mojave, June 14, 2025. Boat disabled deliberately. I tucked it under the sealed water bottle where it would stay dry and visible. Then I kissed Dennis's forehead, adjusted his life vest, and climbed to the edge of the boat. The water was colder than expected. It shocked my system, jolted me fully awake. I looked back once. Dennis sat small and alone in that drifting boat, watching me with terrified eyes. "I love you, son," I called. Then I started swimming, because grandfathers don't have the luxury of giving up. I swam with steady, measured strokes. Not fast, I couldn't afford speed. I needed endurance. Breaststroke, the way Chief Petty Officer Martinez had taught us 45 years ago in San Diego. Pull, breathe, glide. My body remembered. My arms found their rhythm. I counted strokes in my head. 50 strokes, then 30 seconds of rest, treading water. 50 more. Rest, repeat. The boat got smaller behind me. Dennis was just a tiny figure now, barely visible. The shore seemed impossibly far ahead, but it was getting closer. Maybe a mile left, maybe less. My shoulders burned. My legs cramped. Sharp pain shot through my right calf like lightning. I floated on my back, waiting for it to pass. The sun was directly overhead, maybe 1 p.m., the hottest part of the day. Maybe Tyler was right. Maybe a 67-year-old retired engineer couldn't make it 2.5 miles across open water. Then I thought about Sandra. The last thing she said before she died. "You're the strongest man I've ever known, Carl." I thought about Dennis alone on that boat, counting on me. The cramp released. I rolled back over and kept swimming. 20 minutes later, my hand hit rock. Shallow water, sand, stone. I'd made it. My legs gave out when I tried to stand. I crawled through the shallows, pulling myself forward until I was on the bank. The hot sand burned my skin, but I didn't care. I was on my hands and knees when I heard it. The rumble of a truck engine. Glenn Morrison was 69 years old, drove a dusty Ford pickup, and saved my life. He came around the bend at exactly 2:47 p.m. I was crawling at the edge of the dirt road, soaked and shaking. Glenn jumped out. "Sir, are you okay?" I looked up at him. Gray hair, weathered face, Vietnam veteran's cap. "My grandson," I said. "Boat on the lake, 13 years old, alone." He didn't hesitate. Pulled out his phone, dialed 911 while helping me into his truck. "This is Glenn Morrison. I've got a man here. Looks like he swam from the lake. Says his grandson's stranded on a boat." 43 minutes later, the Coast Guard helicopter found Dennis at 3:30 p.m., dehydrated, sunburned, terrified, but alive. They airlifted him to Kingman Regional Medical Center. I was treated for dehydration and heat exhaustion in the ER. They hooked me up to an IV, checked my vitals. Then they brought Dennis to me. When he saw me, he started crying. I held him tight and whispered, "I'm here, son. You're safe now." The nurse who helped us was Angela Park. Sharp-eyed, efficient. She was the one who called the police. "Mr. Richardson," she said, "this doesn't sound like an accident." "It wasn't," I said. Detective Nicole Foster arrived an hour later. Tall, composed, with dark hair and quiet intensity. She sat beside my hospital bed and opened her notebook. I told her everything. The inheritance, Tyler's pressure, the suspicious emails, Jennifer's thermos, the disabled engine, Tyler's note. Foster took notes without interrupting. When I finished, she looked up. "Do you still have the note?" I pulled it from my jacket pocket. She read it, her expression unreadable. "Mr. Richardson," she said, "I believe you, and I'm going to prove it." Here's what happened next. The toxicology results came back positive for benzodiazepines, lorazepam, a sedative strong enough to knock out an adult for 6 hours. Foster found Tyler's phone records showing he'd called 2 real estate attorneys the day he left us, not 911 or Coast Guard. The marina attendant confirmed Tyler had spent 15 minutes alone with the engine. The Coast Guard recovered our boat with drug residue still in the thermos. Then Foster found Tyler's computer. Despite his attempts to delete everything, Tech Recovery found his search history. Lake Mojave drowning statistics, life insurance payout for accidental death, how long do sedatives stay in system? But the smoking gun was the forged will in Tyler's home office, a fake document leaving 70% of my estate to Tyler, 30% to Dennis. The signature was mine, but forensic analysis showed it had been digitally copied from a Father's Day card I'd sent him. The trial began October 7th, 2025. I sat in that Mojave County courtroom with my attorney, Roger Martinez. Tyler looked thin, hollow. Jennifer sat perfectly composed in white. When I testified, I kept it simple. "Jennifer gave us tea. It tasted wrong. I woke up drugged with Dennis unconscious and the boat disabled. Tyler's note said, 'Forgive me.'" Then Tyler broke. Just like that, he stood up and confessed everything. The gambling debts, $480,000 to dangerous people, the August deadline, how Jennifer had planned it all, the drugs, the life insurance, the forged will. "Jennifer researched everything," Tyler sobbed. "She told me exactly what to do. She wrote the note, word for word." Jennifer exploded. "You pathetic coward. This was your debt, your problem. I gave you a solution." She turned to the jury, ice cold now. "Yes, I planned it, I executed it, and it would have worked if Tyler had stuck to the plan." The jury took 5 hours. Guilty on all charges. Tyler got 18 years, eligible for parole after 12. Jennifer got 25 years, eligible after 20. 6 months later, Dennis and I moved to Wickenburg. Small town, quiet street, fresh start. I used Ronald's inheritance to set up a trust for Dennis. $5.5 million locked away until he's 25. I volunteer now at the senior center, helping folks avoid financial scams. Dennis is doing well at his new school. We work in the garage together, building things, fixing things. Tyler writes from prison twice a month. I don't open the letters, but I keep them. Those unopened letters are my boundary. I can forgive him without letting him hurt me again. Because forgiveness and reconciliation aren't the same thing. I'm Carl Richardson. I'm 67 years old. I survived my son's attempt to murder me, swam 2.5 miles to save my grandson, and built a new life from the pieces. This is my story. And if one person hears this and finds the courage to trust their instincts, to protect their family, to survive, then telling it was worth every word. At 67, I learned that wisdom isn't about avoiding life's storms. It's about knowing when to swim against the current and when to build new shores. The family you're born into teaches you about blood, but the family you choose to keep teaches you about loyalty. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is know the difference.